Good morning and welcome to the Great Lakes Fishing Podcast Roadshow. We are at the Niagara Fishing Expo in Niagara Falls, New York, and I'm with Captain Matt Yablonsky from Wet Net Charters. We got a great show for you here this morning going into this afternoon. We've got Matt here for the next 2 hours. We'll talk with him for 20 minutes, and then we got Chip Cartwright coming on. After that, it'll be Dan DeGeorge, Rick Hajecki, Nick Malpagano, and Mark McCune from Garmin. So an action-packed morning. Should be a good morning. And then we've got a lot of cool guys coming on this evening too. We'll be back on this evening at 4 o'clock Eastern time, 3 o'clock Central, just to talk a little bit of fishing here at the Greater Niagara Fishing Expo. But Matt, this is your first time co-hosting,
Yeah.
so thanks for coming on the show. I think we've had you on, probably 2 or 3 times before, but we got you here for 2 hours today.
I like it.
We're looking forward to it.
Glad to be here.
For people who don't know much about you, tell us about your story.
Going into my 19th season as a charter captain. I fish primarily Lake Ontario, Lower Niagara River. I do some Lake Erie, perch, bass, and walleye, but it's kind of sidelining a little bit as time goes on. I've got a 29-foot boat on Lake Ontario, docked in Wilson, and that takes up April through September, pretty much all of my time. This time of year, I'm on the Lower Niagara River, fighting the ice, fighting the conditions. But, the guys have been fishing with me for a long time. February is one of the best times to catch steelhead. They're cold water fish. They like the cold. Even though we don't like the cold, they love it. So, the best steelhead fishing is when it's as cold as it can get. Sometimes a snowstorm, shovel 4 or 6 inches out of the boat at the end of the day, and you've caught a pile of fish. So, give and take. But, I'm a local guy here to the Niagara area. Like I said, going on 19th season. So it's been a good ride.
Bring your ice fishing gear along with for the trip and your boots, and you'll be just fine. We were talking yesterday. You're dodging some icebergs coming down the river right now. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we've really been spoiled the last few years without any ice on Lake Erie and warm water, warm air. This year it got cold right after Christmas, New Year's, and it hasn't let up. Every morning when I get there, the ramp's frozen, and you got to chip it out with a shovel or an axe, get the boat in. Sometimes if it's really cold overnight and it's an inch thick, you got to just back the boat in 3 feet. Chip it, get back in the truck, back it in 3 more feet, chip it again, just so you can get your tail lights under, get the motor in, warm the motor up, and then you use the trim and the motor and gear to kind of break it up, and then you turn it and head into the river and into the icebergs. But that's just getting out of the launch. Once you're on the river, those nights where it was down in the teens all night long, that surface water freezes in the eddies and the coves and all the nooks and crannies, the upper river, lower river. So as the water rises a little bit, when they start letting water over the falls, it loosens up all that ice. But yeah, you're dodging icebergs.
Tell me about what your clients are saying when you're out there. I mean, obviously, you're out here doing this, multiple times every week. You're used to it. You know what to expect. But when you've got people coming out in the boat with you, I mean, what's their reaction to all this?
Some of them are surprised on the ice, but it's normally like I have one of my regulars that books the trip, and he might bring a new guy with him. He might bring a guy that's fished with him a while. So it's a little shocking. When they see and they're like, we're going out there. Oh yeah, it's just ice. But I've got a Lund. Just take your time. It's aluminum boat. As long as you don't hit anything going fast, they just kind of roll off the boat, deflect. I mean, they get on your line while you're fishing, but as long as you take your time and you go easy, you shouldn't have too many issues. But people at the dock, because they always want to see the ice. So just regular people that are coming down, driving their cars down at the ramp, looking, and they go, "Man, you guys are crazy." Got done fishing the one day, and there was an older couple. They pulled up to me, rolled the window down. The lady's like, "How cold is it out there?" I go, "It's as cold as you think it is." Like, how do you answer that? It's cold.
Right.
But it's most of my customers that come and fish the hardcore winter stuff have been doing it with me for years. So they got the right clothing. They know how to prepare for it. So it's not too much of a surprise for most, but you know, you get new guys too that come with those older guys, and
Yeah.
you know, it's a little surprising.
These are guys that have been hanging with you for a while, and
Yeah, yeah.
got some people just jumping in. Luke Gehring's doing a little snow plowing in Harbor Beach, Michigan,
Oh,
while listening to the show. And then Vermont Fishing Adventures, they've been with us all week long. Just want to say hi to you guys.
yeah.
Matt, you know, you've been doing this for a long time. You've seen a lot of different winters. You're fishing the river right now, but you go out and fish in Wilson on the lake. Tell me about what you kind of expect based on the winter we're having this year, what you expect out of the big water this season.
Well, I mean, it's when you have a cold winter and a little bit later spring, normally don't see the salmon as early. The last few years, early April, we've had kings around. Um, this year, you know, the water in the river is liquid ice right now. It's 31.7, 31.8. So if that stays around, the bait fish aren't going to migrate into the shore as quick. So you're not going to see that salmon migration as early. The brown trout, lake trout are probably already there now, just waiting for food. So more than likely, we're going to have to just stick to our program, which, you know, normally it's brown trout first and then lake trout show up. The last few years we had kings mixed in, so it was like you shifted. So it'll be more of normal. You know, depends on when that ice starts to melt in Lake Erie, because when they release the boom, it's a boom that's you know, pontoons that go from shore to shore across Lake Erie right in front of the upper river. So that holds back all that ice all the way down, you know, past Dunkirk, which is a long way. It's a lot of ice.
That's a lot of ice.
So I think it's 250 square miles. Once the lake gets down to 250 square miles of ice, they start to pull the boom, and then it'll slowly release that ice. So our big fiberglass boats do not like ice. My aluminum boat is one thing, but the glass boats don't like ice. So got to kind of watch for that. You're also going to have to watch for a lot of floating debris that's getting pushed into Lake Erie that's being held back. So could be you know, an obstacle course for a while of icebergs and logs.
Yeah,
But
what happens to that ice as it goes over the falls? I mean, you'd think it'd break up quite a bit going over the falls.
it will break up, but some of it's just so thick that it you know, breaks into smaller big chunks.
Yeah, yeah.
But not only that, they have there's a thing called an ice bridge. So below Niagara Falls, when you come to the Lewiston Queenston Bridge, it's a narrow area. It's kind of a bottleneck, and ice will get jammed up in there and freeze, and it could get 20, 30 foot thick. From that ice coming over the falls, just kind of just bunching up and sticking up. So they call that the ice bridge. You know, back in the early 1900s, like probably before some of the bridges were built, that's how they got back and forth to Canada. They would walk across the ice, hence the ice bridge.
Yeah.
You know, so once that ice bridge lets loose, that holds a lot of stuff back. And when it comes through, that's probably worse than Lake Erie ice, because you can get big chunks that have been sitting there for months and months not moving. So it's going to be interesting. But, you know, as far as bait fish go, everybody's worried about the bait fish. Lake Ontario still has 40, 42-degree water in it off of Rochester. So those alewives and the bait fish are just migrating into that warmer water, staying put. They had a warm fall, pretty much a warm all the way till January, and then it just kind of fell off. So they had a good growing season. There was a lot of green water, a lot of food. So as long as those alewives and the bait fish got fattened up before it got cold, they should make it through. So you know, that's a big concern with everybody is the bait fish.
Yeah. And you said that they kind of congregate in the Rochester area over winter?
Yeah, well, a lot of them winter off of the Niagara, like out in the middle between Canada and New York, because it's a deep water that doesn't get churned up by the wind. But I know that warmer water, you can see it on the surface topo maps, is off of Rochester. So if it gets too cold on our end, they're going to move to that warmer water. And the surface is still 40, 42. So they don't have to be down super deep. So, you know, as long as they can find warmer water and they can feed a little bit and you know, stay out of that cold water, it should be fine.
Very cool. Tell me about fishing in Wilson with you. What's that season look like out of Wilson?
Well, it's, you know, April is typically brown trout season. As you get towards later April, the kings will start showing up in bigger numbers, and we fish salmon. Most of them are right out in front of port for until the water gets too warm. Once the water gets into the mid 40s, they'll start spreading out. They'll move towards Olcott, move towards Rochester, and move down the lake. But our season, we have deep water pretty close to shore. So if we're out a mile, we're already 250, 300 feet of water. So a lot of our salmon migrate and stay right in that river channel coming out of the Niagara. Wilson's 12 miles from the mouth of the river. So it's the closest port to the river, and the river has the green water, the warmer water. It's got the food for the bait fish. The bait fish love it. So we try to target that Niagara River plume of green water. Most of our fishing until we get into mid-June is kind of right out front between there and the Niagara River.
Very cool. If you have any questions for Captain Matt Yablonsky or any of our other guests today, go ahead and drop them in the comments. We'll get those questions to our guests, and we can talk a little fishing with you today. It's a Friday morning right here in Niagara Falls. It's cool, but the sun's out, and
the sun is out today.
Pretty nice day out there.
Not bad.
Yeah. I've fished that Wilson area in May before, but I've never been there in July. What does it look like out there in the middle of summer?
July is a really good time for king salmon. So kind of what happens is a lot of the bait fish love to hang around that Niagara plume, and it goes from our water to like Oak Orchard. That's kind of, and then once it gets past there, that plume will definitely spread out. So as the bait fish are getting ready to spawn, they move into the shallower water, 60, 80 feet, and the bait fish stage, those kings are right there, and they're right in front of port. July can be some of the best salmon fishing of the year because they're bigger then. They've had a couple months to grow. When those alewives migrate in before they move too shallow, the feeding frenzy that goes on, and then you get some steelhead mixed in July. You have cohosts in July. So it's really, and we don't have to go that far offshore. Usually last year we had predominant southwest winds, and it kept that river plume kind of close. We were starting in 40, 50 feet of water right out in front of port and just trolling around and staying close. So, but July is really good. Our August gets a little tougher because once the water gets too warm and you get closer to that spawning, that, when they're going to start to migrate, a lot of the wild fish that are born in Canada move across the North Shore. The wild fish from the east go back to the east. So that salmon, number that we have just slowly dissipates going into August. And we still have good fishing in August, but it's our pen-raised fish, our stock fish. So up until then, we have a conglomeration of all the fish in the lake that are just feeding in that Niagara River plume. So, and the weather's nice. You don't have to dodge icebergs in July.
Right. So I know they do pen rearing in Olcott.
Yes.
Do they do that in Wilson too?
Wilson right now we pen rear steelhead.
Okay.
When they made the stocking cuts a few years ago, there were some kings in Wilson. They did a test program where they were stocking like 15 or 20,000, and I think it did pretty well. But when they cut those numbers down, they eliminated the Wilson salmon pen.
Gotcha.
So basically, the DEC right now, it's kind of like a safety in numbers program. So they have less pen sites with more fish in each site, so that the bird predation or the fish predation, there's more of them, they can stay together and get the job done. But the Niagara River has a pen project.
Okay.
Frank Campbell and I basically run that Niagara River pen project, and the lower Niagara River guides help out. They help us put them in, take them out, and do some feeding. So this year we're going to have 90,000 kings, and we're going to get some extra steelhead. So we're probably going to have like 25,000 steelhead in our Niagara River pens.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're going to build yourself pretty decent return there with those fish. I know that, again, Olcott, they've got it. You got your steelhead in Wilson. Tell me a little bit about your program, your summer program running out of Wilson. What does it look like?
Well, like I said, typically they're a little closer to shore. So my program, I start off 5 rods is my basic program. 3 downriggers, 2 divers. In July, I'll like to run flasher flies on my divers, and I run spoons on my downriggers. I like to stack my spoons. I use a product called a Liberator, made by Romer. So it clips on and I can pin them. So I'll pin a spoon 10 feet above my main spoon on my 2 out and down riggers. Center rigger, I like to run clean. I just run 1 spoon on it, Sometimes I'll put that stacker spoon on there, but in my mind, I like to keep the middle of the boat open. So if that fish is coming from the port or the starboard side, if it comes through the middle, it can come through kind of without running into another line in the middle. So I don't know. It's just, us fishermen, a lot of us have a little bit of OCD.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of us have a lot of OCD. But I run 5 spoons on my riggers, 2 divers. If the fish are in that 60 foot of water, 50 to 60. If they go a little deeper, I'll throw a set of high divers in.
Okay.
I'm not a big long line guy. I do have them all. I've got a whole bunch of lead cores. I have a lot of weighted steels from 200 to 400, but I don't run with a mate. So me having 5 rods or 7 rods without planer board rods is just easier for me. And when the bite's good, you don't need more than 5 rods.
So keeping it simple, probably a little bit more focused approach than with just 5 rods in the water. What are some of your favorite spoons in the summertime that you're running? Like I said, you're running 5 rods. What you've got down there, that's got to be kind of your money stuff. That's your good stuff that you got down there.
I run a lot of Silver Streak spoons.
Okay.
Magnum Silver Streak spoons are my favorites. Some of the ones to go to, Green Skirt. Everybody knows that. I found that spoon years and years ago, and it's really not it's not a pretty spoon. It's not attractive to the eye. It's silver back, silver front, and it's got green and chartreuse on the the bottom of the spoon, but the fish just love it. So that's one of my main spoons. The Green Alewife spoon is another one of my favorite spoons. The Green Alewife is a smooth back spoon. So being a smooth back and silver from Silver Streak, it's very shiny. When you take that spoon and you kind of turn it, the back turns black. So it has a shine, but it has a black shine too.
You should come sit down because we're talking about your equipment right now.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing.
Talking about the Magnum Green Alewife.
Speaking of Silver Streak spoons, here's the guy. Chip Cartwright joins us now.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by, and it is actually pretty funny because he literally just said the word Silver Streak as you came around the corner.
Right around the corner. That's perfect timing.
So Matt, I'm sure Chip knows, but keep going. Tell us about your favorite Silver Streak spoons and what you're using out on Lake Ontario.
We've already talked about the Green Skirt.
Okay.
I think CJ painted it and come up with that crazy design, and and I think I brought its name to life.
You certainly have. That's it's been a staple for you for quite a while out here.
It's been a great spoon. Oh, we've got a lot of our water has color here. The water's green, and sometimes it's pea soup green. Those fluorescent colors and that bright UV that's on it.
Yeah.
Just they can see it, and they can see it down deep when there's not a lot of light penetration. Just been a great spoon. When the water gets a little clearer going into July, they kind of fade away from it, but we have other spoons to use. The Green Alewife has become my second favorite spoon. Like I said, it's a smooth back. So when you turn that spoon sideways, it kind of turns black. And then you got a really shiny flash and then black. Flash, black, flash, black. So we call it, hard to see, easy to find.
Yeah, there you go.
Because when the fish looks at it, it's like I can see it, I can't see it. I can see it, I can't see it. But when it flashes, it gets their attention. So they seem to just really hit that spoon hard because it's, easy to see, hard to find.
Well, I think it's the draw that we're just sorry. I was just talking with Jake was in the booth and Mark, and we were talking about trying to draw fish into the spread, and we were talking about, you ever notice if you got a rotator down there and that's not taking any bites, but everything around it is going good, and then all of a sudden it hasn't had a bite. You pull it out of there and everything goes dead. That was the draw. And then they wanted something else when they got in close, and I think a lot of that is even like with the Green Skirt with the UV, where we put that in our paint.
Yeah.
So the whole silver part of the spoon is the draw. It's just like glow in the dark stuff. That's if the fish can see it at a greater distance, you're drawing more fish in. To me, fishing's a numbers game.
Right.
The more I can increase my odds of getting a bite, that's how I approach everything and try to get as many, fish in to look at everything. Not everyone will bite, but the more you draw in, you increase your odds of getting bites.
Right.
I think that's where the UV comes into play, and
Yeah.
and like you're talking, the flash on the back of the green skirts, it's just on and off, but it's an eye catcher for the fish to draw them in.
Yep. And then one of my other favorite colors is a yellowtail. There's quite a few variations of the yellowtail. There's a double glow, so it's glow on the back, glow on the front. And then they have a glow front with a smooth silver back. And then there's a pearl. And you've got the
We got antifreeze ones now.
Yeah, antifreeze. So, but it's got enough yellow and it's got enough chartreuse. It's got a little red dot on it, but it still has a minnow look to it. And it still has a lot of silver, and it's kind of it's just it's not too much color, but there's enough color to make it work. So some days you just go from the double glow to the pearl glow, and you just throughout as the sun goes up and down.
Yep.
I'm kind of an old school guy. I stick to the old school stuff, but still works.
We just got a message here from Luke Gehring. He says, greasy chicken wing, mag silver streak, everyday go-to here in Lake Huron. So,
oh yeah,
that's a
message
from a Michigander.
Just what Matt was pointing to. He's old school and doing stuff. A lot of the new colors that we do and stuff, they're based on old colors.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the new stuff this year is, it's a Hulk pattern we've been doing the last couple of years, but the one that was good that I pre-fished all summer in Ludington, it's a Kevorkian. I just put colored on the ends with some tape and the ladder backs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just taking a proven color. And a couple of other ones are just fishing machines, and we just add some color in there. So you're taking proven stuff and just tweaking, to the new stuff that's available, different paints and tapes, and
Yeah.
just trying some different stuff.
Yeah, you got to still make new stuff.
Well, it's so much different than when we started. It's our 41st year, and back in the mid 80s, you couldn't see 6 feet down in Lake Michigan.
True.
That's why we went to the silver plating, just trying to get any kind of flash. Well, we didn't have to run lead core then. We didn't have to do anything. I laughed. My mom was cleaning out some of my dad's stuff, and we videotaped all our charters in the 80s and stuff. And it's like, my son was watching them. I'm going like, holy crap, if it were that easy then, you put 5 downers down and a couple dipsies, and that's all you ran.
Yep.
2 o'clock dead flat, and you're hammering big kings.
That's all you needed.
It's like, but Mother Nature changed on us a little bit. The lakes are a lot different, and so that's why tactics are so much different now. Just things change throughout the years, and just like all products, everyone's products. We're new paints or new tapes are available to us. That's why things keep changing as we go along and trying to develop new and better stuff that works a little better.
Yeah.
But the old stuff still works great.
Yep. Then you got the UV tapes that you put over top of some of them.
We do a lot of the tape, but and we still put the UV in the clear when we clear everything. So I think that helps to get the whole spoon, like the green skirt. Instead of just doing a piece of tape on there, do the whole thing.
Yeah, when you look at the face of that spoon in the sun and you turn it, it's got a purple haze to it. It's purple hue, so you know that the fish are seeing something that we aren't seeing.
Right.
And in low light conditions or down deep, they can see that UV before they see other colors.
Yes.
So,
but still, you never know what the fish want. I mean, that's why we try to test everything. But it's like you can paint up the prettiest thing when you're prototyping stuff. It's like, God, it's gonna be a fish killer.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Right? The god awful ugliest thing that you paint up, like, why would a fish bite this?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't keep it in the water. Sometimes you just
They have a different taste than we do.
Yeah.
Chip,
Well,
I'm really glad that you came here today and you jumped in kind of when we were in the middle of talking with Matt. But tell us a little bit about how you got started in this. And I know I was talking to Trevor this morning, and I told him you were coming on. He's like, "Oh, you got to have him tell you about how he got started." He's like, he's been doing this since he was a boy, and like, so can you kind of tell us that story and just how you got going?
all this started through my dad. He started in probably like 68. He got the fishing bug when we had our first big salmon runs in Michigan, and he tells a story laughing. No one knew how to catch kings back then, and he fished at a river up by Sheboygan, and called the Akiak River. Him and his one buddy were up there fishing. They couldn't catch a dang fish. He says he saw one. They were in the boat right by the dock or something, and big king jumped right up on beach into the freaking swamp. He said, I dove in there with my knife in my teeth like an alligator fight, you know, and wrestled out this big king. Was the first fish he ever caught. Had the bug ever since. And so that got him started. But we went through the steelheader, the Michigan steelheaders. He was big in that and doing everything. Progressed. I mean, since 70 or 71, he fished for Lure Jensen and did a lot of stuff with those guys. And he worked for Chrysler in the big layoffs in 78, 79. He got laid off, and actually Eppinger hired him to run that and develop the Great Lakes market. So he designed the flutter chuck there, then worked with them for a while until that ended in like 83. The fall of 83, we sold a few lures, but 1984 was the first year we started making silver streaks. Here we are 41 years later. He's passed away. I run it for my mom now and stuff. Keep it going. And
Trevor said that you started doing this when you were 12 years old.
yeah, when my dad was at Eppinger's, we'd go to the shows. I was 12 years old. I'd tie spring wigglers. I had a little bench, sold them for $0.25. So they weren't real pretty, but I'd bake $3 or $4. I'd go buy more material and stuff and then tie some more. And that's while he was out selling spoons, I'd sit there, had a little bench, and that was my start in fishing lures.
Yep.
Tying spring wigglers at 12 years old.
And it's still a family business. You said you work for your mom. I think you said your sister also works there.
Runs the office and does all that. And
so how has it evolved now? Like what do you do? What's your day to day?
Developing new colors and just running the operations and making sure, right now I'm scrambling around trying to buy brass and get stuff stamped out for this year and working with the platers and make sure we got stuff. Had 2 painters most of the time, but the second one, he likes to fish more than he likes to paint.
Yeah.
So he's the fill-in work. Like that one great painter that's been with us for 25 years. He's the machine and paints a ton of stuff and really, really good at what he does. So that's my day to day is just running the operations. And I still run charters a little bit, not many, just a few walleye fishing. I go salmon fishing the last couple of years with my boat, but I don't run charters. I just fun fish and testing lures. Trevor says, "Oh, what was working for you today?" I'm like, "It doesn't matter. You don't got any." What do you mean? Everything I'm running is for next year, so I got no standard stuff on. I'm playing. But that's, the guys that do fish for me, the charter guys, it's like they can't always play when your first priority is your customers. You got to catch fish.
Yeah.
Me, if I'm just playing, I don't, if something's going good, I take it off and put the next thing down to see how it compares to what we've had in the past. Just trying to see if it's better, worse, what's going to work, where.
And you fish out of Ludington?
The last couple of years I have, I did 27 years in Frankfurt.
Okay.
When I bring friends up just to fun fish, it's hard to get a motel up there, and Ludington's a lot more places to go to eat dinner. And so
I was in Frankfurt this past August, and I can attest to the not very many hotels. And
I love Frankfurt, but there's not many places to eat when you come in. You fish at night, and I have some really good friends of ours. They take their boats up to Ludington. He wanted to do Ludington, so I'm like, it's just a fun deal the last couple of years for us. And
yeah. So when you're out and you're testing, how many times are you surprised by something working or something that maybe you thought would be really great that didn't work?
Not a whole lot, because after this many years, and like I say, I've kind of progressed, and now the new stuff that I'm playing with, it's just tweaks on old patterns and developing. We've been here so long, it's hard to come up with new patterns and new colors, or it's just sort of a twist on some different things. Everything, everyone's got patterns down pretty well and pretty good fish catch and stuff. Sometimes you come up with something that's an oddball and it works pretty good, but most of the time now it's just small tweaks and filling in gaps.
Matt, you got a question for Chip? Something I didn't ask him that you're thinking of over there?
I don't know. No, he's with the new stuff. The same thing. Like he'll send me some new stuff and I'll try them out. And they work. But I'm there to catch fish, charter captain wise. So if it's a little slower, I'm going with Old Faithful.
Yeah.
You know, so I like the looks of the new stuff, and a lot of them do work.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple of the green skirt variation patterns with the, you know, the green and yellow at the top and the tail with a UV tape on it, and it catches fish, but it still doesn't catch fish as good as the original.
Right.
But you know, some days they want a little bit different look, and it'll go. You know, so I try to test out the newer stuff too, but you know, and every now and then I find one. I find a good one that works, and it goes right in the arsenal. I'll call them and say, hey, this one worked good. I need a few more of those, and you know, I think maybe you should make some more. So it works out.
So where Matt fishes, he's got a lot of green in the water. There's a lot of nutrients coming in the water, coming down the river, and where you're fishing, probably much more clear. So how do those things differentiate what he may have tied on to the end of his line compared to what you may have tied on the end of your line?
You know, and I don't really pay a lot of attention to that. I go by more results. Even like for me this summer, we had a new one. It was a twist on the old tequila sunrise. So I did it with antifreeze instead of plain painted, and I put UV tape and watermelon dots on it. Now we had cold water, but usually antifreeze for me in Lake Michigan it did okay in the springs, but it never did good midsummers and stuff. And I'm in Ludington in August now. And shoot, that was my hottest spoon. But you know, normally I would never run antifreeze at that time of year. But we had cold water. I didn't fish. I mean, we were fishing 50, 60 down on the downriggers most of the time I was there. So that was a strange deal for me. But so I kind of go, like I tell everybody, you know, for me, I do a wide spread of colors in the morning, or if I don't have the information, you know, that I've been fishing this spot a lot of days. Um, just try to narrow down what colors work for you. I mean, and everybody's different. What Matt works great for Matt. He's got a good buddy that he calls me. He says, all he orders is plain antifreeze spoons out here. Puts his own tape on them, does his own thing, but it's like, that's all he freaking runs out here. It works great for him. I'm like, not a great seller for me.
Right.
Midsummer, but that's why there's so many colors, because everybody has a different opinion. And
Kurt's one of those old school guys too. You know, he's got boxes of tape that are like this high. He's got every ladder back known to man. He's got, you know, scallops and eyes that I've never seen. But he takes those antifreezes, he puts some orange tapes on them, and some have orange and green, you know, but he'll pair those, especially early in the morning when it's dark. And Kurt also fishes a lot of afternoon trips. So that last light bite, you know, when you're fishing a half an hour, 45 minutes before dark, and your fish finder screen is blank, and all of a sudden it's just like a Christmas tree, it lights up, puts those antifreezes down, and if he's having a slow day, the last 15 minutes, boom, fill the boat with antifreeze silver streaks. But you know, he's got his own program. He does his own thing, and him and I work together a lot. The green alewife is one of my favorites, but he'll put those on a little higher than those antifreezes, and they fire just along with them. But he's got their own thing.
Yeah. Well, we got a question here. Somebody wants to know what Chip's thing is. Scott Mikowski says, Chip, if you had to pick one go-to spoon for Ludington in the summer, what would it be?
Oh, that's a hard question.
It's limiting you to one.
You know, because are you fishing early in the mornings or late? I mean, because it changes. Like,
makes a difference.
All right. Well, let's hear your morning spoon, and then let's hear your midday spoon.
Well, I'm an old hot lobster fan, and that was a good, which is a glow spoon. Was always good for me. But I mean, if you're gonna go there, blue dolphin with a glow back, it gives you the best of both worlds. I mean, you can't go wrong. That spoon's been good for 30 years. You know, and even I did a bunch of new patterns in the Hulk pattern off of blue and green dolphins. Same thing, twisting, which has been really good. But if I had to pick one, blue dolphin to glow back. It gives you the best of both worlds. If you're fishing early or midday, you know.
All right. So you come up with new patterns, new colors every year. So what happens? Do some get discontinued every year? I mean, you can't just keep continuing the SKU list. So
if they don't sell good for 2 years, then they kind of
get moved down the line.
away. So everybody says, "Oh, that was my favorite bait." I'm like, "Well, I never forget how to paint them.
Right.
I can still make them. If they don't sell enough, I just can't store them all." I mean, in 41 years, we've had thousands of colors. And you can't, for us, we can't expect a store. There's only so many pegs on the wall.
Right.
They can't carry everything.
Yep. You just get to a point where maybe one's just not selling that much, and like you say, it's not that it's bad. It's just that for whatever reason it didn't catch on. And a lot of times it comes down to like having a cool name, just having a cool name, or maybe that spoon catches fish, but for some reason when it sits on a peg and somebody's shopping, it doesn't catch the eye. Yeah.
Well, and the big thing now, how things have changed since we started, where it was all back then word of mouth and marine radio. Well, no one uses the marine radio anymore.
Right.
It's all you texting your buddies, or it's online chat rooms. So that drives a lot of the chat rooms and stuff. If you get the press in there and talking about colors and stuff, that's easily converted into the sales in the stores. You can see.
Yep.
I can watch the boards and see what they're talking about, and man, 2 days later you're getting the orders.
Yeah.
And coming in. So that drives a lot of it nowadays. That's how people get their information. So and I get it all the time. These shows people sell me the one that's going to work. I'm like,
yeah, good luck with that.
Which one are you going to run?
Yeah.
Everything catches a fish. It's how long you want to drag around before it catches a fish.
That's it.
So
there's a spoon that you made years ago. Sent it to me with a bunch of new stuff called Kato. And first time I ran it, nothing. And then we were out one day and it was flat, calm, high sun, gin clear water. I put that spoon down and instantly fired. And then I put it back down, instantly fired again. I think I had one mag and one standard. And before I lost that original one, I took a picture of it and sent it to him and I go, I need more of these. He goes, really? I go, yeah. I go, I don't know the name of it. That's Kato. I'm like, okay. But it's a metallic green spoon and it's very shiny green. It's got some dots on, little glow eye, like a little glow painted eye. And it's just very unique. And when the fish want it, they will pick it out of the spread no matter where it's at. If it's at 30 feet or 60 feet, but it's high sun, flat water, gin clear. And then, a lot of the brighter stuff, the glow stuff, the green skirt, the yellow, they're not bit. Mm-hmm. That one just fires. So, every now and then you just get something that's just different and it's unique.
Chip, one more question here from the audience. Martin wants to know, do you think the spring king run around Manistee and Ludington will be a little later this year with the colder winter weather?
Just depends on how fast the lake's going to warm up on us. I think, with this cold winter we've had, how long it's going to hold on. Mm-hmm. We'll see how fast we can get into Michigan City and start that spring coho and the Kings going. But, as long as, I think for us on Lake Michigan now, it's weather patterns or wind patterns that drive it more. It's driving the bait on our side or Wisconsin side. Mm-hmm. I think more of it. I mean, we had good winds and steady weather patterns all summer for us, and we kept the cool water on our side. The bait stayed in close. I just ran south and just played. We had a great coho fishery. I just played in the coho walls.
Yeah.
All year until I did my last weekend. We did a video with Ross. Came up and he said, I just want some big kings. So I pulled an old Jerry Lee. I went right around the pier head in 50 foot of water and pointed north.
You want to do the podcast? Well, Billy sent me over here to talk to whoever does the podcast.
Oh, we're in the middle of a show right now. So, yeah, if you can swing by maybe in about an hour and a half, that'd be good. Yeah, I mean, the other thing that I wanted to talk about briefly, and we're coming up on our next guest, but you guys have 4 different sizes, and we've been talking a lot of color here, but how about the sizes and kind of how they differentiate throughout your line?
Well, we do the juniors, the minis, the silver streaks, and the mags. Juniors mainly walleye and stuff. So I got a few guys running them for lake trout and behind cowbells, but that's a unique situation. But the minis, a great spring king bait or walleye bait, and then the mags and the streaks, which last year I think we used to sell way more mags than we did silver streak size. Mm-hmm. Last year I think the silver streaks we sold more of, so we're starting to downsize a little bit more on the size of the spoon. And I know a couple guys, Northern Lake, Michigan, who were all mags, that they're running mostly streak size now. So, times change. The size kind of changes. And I think it's just opinions. And it's what you have in the water more often.
Those usually
That's what
catch
you're
more
gonna
for
catch.
you. There
You
you
got to
go.
have in the water to catch fish. So,
Yep, yep. Well, Chip, really appreciate you stopping by and talking
thank
to
you
us. It's a
much.
lot of fun
Hey,
talking to
man,
you.
thank you.
Appreciate your time, and
You betcha.
have a great rest of your show. Chip Cartwright from Silver Streak. We got a captain coming on, Mr. Dan DeGeorge. Come on in, Dan.
Hey, Dan, good to see you again. Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We'll put this mic on you here.
Appreciate it.
So, Dan, we've never had you on our show before, but I ran into you this morning and said, "Hey, we got a spot open. Why don't you come sit down with us?" And you're here. Tell us about yourself and your charter.
I'm Double D Sport Fishing. I'm out of the Port of Rochester.
Okay.
Uh, April through into September, brown
Okay.
trout, salmon, steelhead, the typical stuff.
How long you been doing it?
I've been professionally chartering for 3 years, but I've been fishing the Great Lakes and doing this stuff since the early to mid 80s.
Yeah. How'd you get started?
Just had a drive for fishing, and I started off fishing off the piers and started to catch these fish as they were prevalent in the Lake Ontario when the alewife boom was going on, and it just grew from there, and getting a boat and gradually working my way up.
Did you have a mentor, or were you kind of self-taught? How did that go?
It was pretty much self-taught as far as the fishing and the hunting. It just was a drive and something that I'd love to do, and my father, my family really wasn't into it. It was just the passion I had, and I kind of.
Tell me about that learning curve. How do you go about learning just basically from scratch by yourself? Because I think there's a lot of people out there that see what you guys do and they're like, I want to do that, but they don't really know where to get started. They don't know how to really learn. How do you do that?
Well, again, it's the drive, it's the passion. So a lot of reading, a lot of, well, back in my day, it was magazines you're reading. Now there's social media, YouTube, that kind of stuff. Getting out there, trial and error, and going on some fishing charters with some captains is where you're going to glean a lot of the information, because it's just going to bring your learning curve way up when you could see hands-on. And all these captains of, there's no secrets to this. You come out on a trip and we're going to explain what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what the process is. So
That's one thing about the Lake Ontario captains is most guys are willing to share information and teach. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Everybody wants to know. And, like you talk to Lake Erie guys and they're catching it on a perch colored stick bait and they tell you they're using blue, purple. Oh, no, it's, but it's just, it seems a little different. Lake Ontario guys are like, look, there's a lot of fish. There's a lot of water.
Fish, exactly.
We want everybody to catch fish.
Yeah.
We don't want any bad reputation. It's like, hey, go with me, go with him.
Right.
You're gonna catch fish.
Yeah, it's funny. I live I live in the Minnesota area, and we've got this walleye fishery there that is everyone's very protective of what they're doing because they don't want a bunch of people showing up in their spot. They don't want a bunch of people fishing out a particular lake. But when we're talking about salmon in the Great Lakes, it's like, well, that fish is going to die in 4 years anyway, so somebody's got to go out and kill it. It might as well be you.
Right.
So it's just a very different attitude towards the fishery and what's there, and that these fish regenerate, and that's what they do, and that's how they are. So it is fun talking to you guys just in that. Most of the people that we talk to are pretty much open book when we talk about what you're doing out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So tell me about the Port of Rochester. What's it like fishing out of there?
It's a great port. There's a lot to offer. We got great brown trout fishing in the spring, even into the summer. Central location. We just have it all there. Steelhead, salmon, good fishery in the summer. We got to run a little bit further than some of these other ports because we're in the basin, but that is what I would say would be the only downfall. And it's not to the other fishermen or customers. It's just we got to run a little further and spend a little more on gas, but the guys are all good, and we're gonna take you out and bring you where the fish are. So
Mhm. So how does it set up when you're coming out? How far do you usually run to get to the water you want to fish? And what
well,
kind of depths are you fishing?
well, it depends. We start out in the spring, and we're gonna be fishing. Could be 6 to 12 foot of water, and we're gonna do the brown trout. If you're
Mhm.
coming out of the river, we're either gonna go east, we're gonna head down towards Webster, or we're gonna go the other way and head down past Grease and Braddock's, and both probably some of the best brown trout fishing spots on the whole lake. And then as things start to transition, we're going to start moving out further, and we're going to get out to 100 foot, 200 foot, and then we get into July and August, and we could be out to 600 foot in the shipping lanes and fishing off Scotch Bonnet, gap out there.
Mhm.
But we just kind of follow where the fish are.
Okay. Tell me about your boat. What are you running for a boat?
I am running a 27-foot Tierra Pursuit, fully rigged with fish hawk, and
Yeah.
which can't say enough about. Love it. You have the Canon Optima downriggers. Everything's all Bluetooth. I don't have to look at the front of the boat anymore. It's
Right.
just all right there. But yeah, so it's a well set up ride. Handles the water well, and working out really well.
What is your like summer program look like?
As far as salmon,
Yeah, if you're gonna go fishing for kings on a July day, what does your typical setup look like?
I will typically, normally, that time of year we'll be going offshore,
Hmm.
and I'll be running probably 4 riggers. I just run 2 divers. I don't do the double divers, and I'll run my coppers off my boards, and then that's my spread. And
Hmm.
we'll cover the water column, kind of find temperature with obviously with the fish hawk, and see where things are. And I'll run a lot of meat program, big paddles, stuff off the diver, stuff off the copper.
Hmm.
Spoons have been hot the past couple of years though, so I don't sleep on those either.
Yeah. What do you like for spoons? We just talked to Chip from Silver Streaks. He's gone now, so you don't have to. You're not gonna hurt his feelings.
I don't have an allegiance to any one particular. It's like what's working, but honestly, Route 19 Jonathan over there is putting out some really nice patterns and spoons, and
Hmm.
been running a lot of his stuff, still some Greenleafers and Michigan Stingers and whatnot. And I know a lot of the captains, they have to have a variety of stuff out there, but I am more of the mindset, fish are hitting something, I'm gonna flood the zone. I've been known to have 4 of the same rig out there,
Hmm.
and if they're telling me what they want, the baby wants to eat peas, I'm not gonna try and feed it carrots. I'm gonna put some more peas out there. It's been my motto, so it's kind of.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm running 5 spoons on my riggers, and if it's just high divers and spoons, sometimes there's 7 of the same spoon on there. If they want it, feed it to them.
Right. I don't.
Why try this and that? And if that one keeps going, just
Let
give
it
it
go.
to them.
It's not a game. We don't get extra bonus points if we make them eat something different. So
No.
let's catch fish.
No,
They want that.
Keep
Get
it
it.
simple.
Yes.
Don't make them eat a fly if they want a spoon.
Correct.
Well, FLX Adventures chimes in and says your boat is gorgeous. So must be somebody from the port of Rochester
Yeah.
that knows you. So they stopped in to say that they're a big fan of the boat.
I am meticulous with it, and I keep it up and clean, and it's my baby. So
Yeah, I love that. It's fun walking through a marina and you see a wide variety. You see the guys that are out there running, like 1982 boats, and they look really nice. And then you walk up to the next guy, and he's got a 10-year-old boat. There's just crap laying all over in it, and it's just funny going through and seeing just how different everyone kind of does things a little bit differently, and how boats are handled.
yeah.
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 Are you a clean boat guy,
I'm
Matt?
a clean boat guy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if there's a pile of spoons, they need to be organized. Sometimes I run scent on my spoons in the morning or when the water's green, early in the season when it's thick and cold. Yeah, I got to clean those scents off. And the ones I scent, I put in a certain pile, belly down, so they're not making everything else slimy.
Sure.
Like we said earlier, most charter captains have a little bit of OCD.
Yeah.
And some have a lot of
Yeah.
OCD.
Yes.
Dan, I heard you say flood the zone. Are you a football guy?
I like to watch football,
All right. I didn't know
but
if
I'm
maybe
not
you
a
were a
Bills
coach
fan,
or something.
full disclosure. So
All right. Who's your team?
the Dolphins, believe it or
The
not.
Dolphins. All right.
Not good, but it's okay.
Yeah. I'm sure you were a child of the '80s and probably loved Dan Marino.
Child of the '70s, or the last time they won a Super Bowl, really.
Yeah, there you go.
I was born in Pittsburgh, so
yeah.
the Bills are my second team.
All right.
I'm a Steelers fan.
Yeah, you're a transplant here, so
right.
you kind of have to like them. And I grew up in Illinois, so it was like nobody could like the Packers. But then I moved to Wisconsin, and I've got a Wisconsin wife and kids who grew up in Wisconsin, so I have to like not hate the Packers, although it's been bred into me by growing up in Illinois.
Fan and heart.
I actually, so we talked about Marino. I grew up watching John Elway, and that was like who I idolized. So I ended up being a Broncos fan,
okay.
which is weird, but I'm a weird guy. So.
Yeah.
Let's talk some fishing though. Tell me about one of your more memorable days in the water. What's kind of, if we were to run into each other at the bar and I said, give me a good story about fishing, whether it's with clients or maybe just when you were out fishing on your own. What's a day that you, or a story that you think of often?
I mean, you could almost name most of the days this past summer because fishing was just so great. I have a lot of fun. I fish by myself a lot. If I don't have trips and I'm freed up, I'll take that boat out and I'll fish it by myself. And just being out, especially offshore and fishing out there and, hooking into a 20 some odd pound king and by yourself and fighting it and getting gear out of the way and netting that fish by yourself is just, I look for that stuff. It's just outstanding. Yeah.
Tell me about that. How do you do that? So let's say you get one on one of your long coppers and you've got all the other stuff set up right around the boat and you're out there by yourself. How are you managing that rod?
It's like a chess match and it's different every time. You got to take the temperature of the fish, see what's going on, get some gear out of the way. Now I'm by myself, so typically, there's just going to be 3 rods. So that's in my favor to begin with. I don't have enough. It's just depending on what's going on. Rarely when I'm fishing by myself, unless there's just a super copper bite going on, will I run the coppers by myself.
Yep.
It'll be either a 1 diver and 2 rigger spread or a 1 rigger and a 2 diver spread. And
so it's just more manageable.
Yeah, that's the tricky part is when they're on that diver rod, and I run probably too long of leads off of my divers than I should, and it's a lot of playing the fish and hand lining and having the net ready and set up, and I went for many years and didn't have any problems, and then it must have been 3 summers ago, I lost 2 nets in 1 week by fish getting a little rambunctious on me and setting it down wrong and into the water. But since then, it's all been good. So I just kind of have a system where I've done it and kind of going to have to hand line. If they start to get a little feisty, you just got to let it go. And they're just kind of
let it do its thing.
Yeah.
And you're just, I guess you're only working around 2 other rods with only 3 lines in. I was trying to wrap my head around. I'm like, well, you got 6 lines. You're not gonna have 6 lines out.
Only allowed 3.
Yeah, right. Only allowed 3. So not as much messing around. Matthew was with us a lot yesterday. He's got a question. Under stable conditions, how far down are you typically finding temperature throughout the summer out of Rochester?
Well, again, it's all going to, there's no cut and dry answer. It's going to depend on the wind and, and what's going on. How deep offshore we are. We could be 70 foot down. We could be 110 foot down. It just fluctuates, and that's where your product is valuable to what we do because it lets us know.
Yeah.
Okay, temperature today. Well, yesterday it was at 80. Now it's at 95 today, and we got to move our stuff down and search that temperature out.
Yep. And it's one of those things too, Matthew, if you're just getting started and maybe you don't have the money to invest in a full system, check out that Fishhawk TD, because that's going to give you that temperature data. You can just drop it down, bring it back up, and you've got that data at your fingertips. And it's not going to cost you a fraction of what a regular system will cost, but it gets you in the zone as far as that finding out what that
Yeah,
temperature is.
We live and die by the temperature of the water, and you're close enough to the west end that on a northeast blow, the temperature might be 30 feet down when you get out there. The surface might only be, it's July 4th, right? Everybody's suntan, it's hot. You go out of the pier heads and it's 42 degrees at the pier heads. You're like, now what do I do?
Right.
Well, if you're looking for 42-degree water, it's on the surface.
Right.
Right. So if you go out to 60, 80 feet of water, that 42 might only be 30 feet down, and then it's 39 down. So, the TD gets you there, the regular fish hawk, there's lots of products, but live and die by that water temperature could be 30 feet down in early July, mid-July, after a blow. So you just don't know until you get out there.
Yeah, I was on the Michigan coast of Lake Michigan this past August, and we were out one day and it was like 70 on top, and the next day we went out there and it was 52 on top.
Rolled right over.
It's like one day is completely different.
Here we go.
So live and die by the temperature of the water.
Right.
Yeah.
And typically that's why in the summer, late summer into late July and into August, we end up way offshore because deeper water column, the water's more stable. It takes a lot more to move it out there. So
what are your returns like when you get towards the end of the season?
they're not what they were as far as the fish coming back to the river, Tennessee River, my home port. I don't feel, but they're there. It's good. It seems like it's later than it typically used to be, and I'm pretty much done with my fishing season at that time. My personal belief is, although we pen rear these fish and they're supposed to be imprinting to our tributaries, they all come from that Salmon River hatchery at Altamar, and I feel as though they're
Still
already
somewhat
imprinted,
imprinted there, yeah.
and then a lot of that's why East End fall runs and they get what they get. It's
could be right.
Well, sometimes, we never know what's going on underneath that water. But sometimes I think, like last year, there were so many wild fish in the system. So if 60 or 70 or 80% of your salmon are wild, like they all know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Their brain is like, they're looking at their watch going, it's time to go. So now 70% of the salmon start swimming east. The other 30% of the stockfish are like, we're just going to go with them.
Follow.
They know where they're going, and I'm a little lost, so I'm going to go with them. And I think that happens. Whether it does or not, I'll never know. But it seems to be that the wild fish, sometimes if there's a bunch of them, the others will just follow. Maybe they didn't get programmed 100%. They were stocked here. They've been living here, but they're not sure where they want to go. If you see a bunch of fish going in one direction, let's go there. So it's hard to say, but I do believe with your theory as well.
Yeah, interesting. We'll have to have a biologist on sometime, and I'm going to throw that theory at them and see what they say. It'd be interesting.
We've had that discussion with them, and everyone's got their own feel and take on it, but nonetheless, it's a world-class fishery we got here. And it's my playground. Love it.
People come from all over the world.
Yes.
I live in almost Minnesota on the Wisconsin-Minnesota border, and I drive over here every year to spend a week on Lake Ontario because it's just a cool place to fish. And I like fishing with the guys that are on the lake, and it's a lot of fun. So you got a jewel here and a gem here, and I think you guys all know that. And appreciate you coming on, Dan.
All right.
It's good meeting you.
You too.
Thank you so much. I'm going to pull that mic
Thank
off
you.
of
Yes,
you.
sir.
And then you're out of here.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Dan DeGeorge. Appreciate him coming on. We got another guy coming on the show. Matt, you want to slide over here in this chair?
Sure.
We got another Rochester guy. Give you those headphones. I'm going to pull these ones on, and we'll bring him up on the show here. He looks pretty relaxed.
going on,
Captain
guys?
Rickard, how you doing, my
How you
man?
doing, Rick?
Good. How's my volume?
You're good. We can hear you loud and clear.
I can hear you good.
Yeah. You look pretty relaxed. Is the show not open yet?
No, I got about another hour before it opens.
Okay. You were at what show are you at this weekend?
So we're over in Syracuse at the Central New York Boat Show.
So Rick used to hang out with us here at Greater Niagara. Now he's just on the boat show tour every spring, and we miss him now here at the Greater Niagara Show. But he's always kind enough to join us remotely, and just had a Rochester guy on here, and that's where you call home, but that's not your home port where you fish out of generally, right? You do a little fishing there, but tell us about kind of your season and where you're fishing, Rick.
It's kind of funny. So you got Dan just left your studio. When he leaves his marina, I slide in and take his dock. So it's kind of funny how that happened. But yeah, we start our season in Rochester pretty much in December, and we will fish all winter out of Rochester right into April. And then right before our first tournament over in St. Catharines, we're hanging in Rochester, catching whatever Rochester's given up. Most of the time it's brown trout. In the last few years, we've had quite a salmon bite in early April. So that's kind of where we start our season.
And then you head over to the Oak. Tell me about fishing the Oak. Let's talk a little bit about that today. Dan obviously is a Rochester guy, but you move over to the Oak for most of the salmon season. Why do you do that?
We just fell in love with the Oak when we were younger. The fishing was always great. Probably the biggest thing that pulled us into the Oak was the amount of fishing information that was available. There was a page called At the Oak Forever, where there was a couple that would put up fishing reports and listen to the VHF every day and grab reports off the guys chatting on the VHF radio. So it was easy to go there and figure out where to fish when we were just weekend warriors with our father. And then over time, we just kind of fell in love with the Oak. You've got quick access to deep water. You're fishing that tail end of the Niagara River water, which is very fertile. It's just a consistent fishery that's got great fishing from April right through September, October. There's usually salmon around. If there's not salmon, you can always fall back on brown trout and lake trout. And then getting offshore to play with some steelhead is always an option, especially later on in the season.
Yeah, you get out there, you've got that mixed bag fishery, Rick. So tell people a little bit about what kind of your kind of mid-season or your summer program looks like.
Our summer program, we're fishing salmon. So most of the stuff that goes in the water is going to be salmon type colors. On Lake Ontario, it's that green, black, glow, silver. The Oak is unique. We use a lot of gold out of the Oak. You don't tend to see that elsewhere on the lake unless you're dealing with brown trout guys, which are trying to imitate a goby. To me, the bite's usually decent. I would prefer just putting spoons in the water and catching fish. If I have to go and throw some meat rigs in there, we will. And of course, flash and flies. But I'm a huge spoon guy. I've put countless pictures on social media, just piles of spoons at the end of the day. It's just an easy presentation to put in the water, and you can mix it up with various colors, and it kind of looks, everything kind of looks the same. What's that?
We got some people just talking behind me that you're probably hearing. Go ahead.
Yeah, so most of our programs are spoons. We will on our divers, we might throw some meat rigs out there. We play with the real stuff and the fake strips as well. But that's our typical program. If I can get away with running spoons, I'm going to run spoons, just because I can use a little bit lighter rod, a little bit lighter line. We don't have these 35 to 40 pound salmon anymore, so getting lighter setups in the water is always a good thing.
You do have some good size though, and the Oak is really known for a place on Lake Ontario where you can go and get a really good salmon. I had a July trip with you, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, and we hit a couple of really nice fish while we were out there with you that day. I think we had 2 over 20 pounds. What is it about that area that kind of seems to attract some of those big ones?
I personally think we catch the tail end of that Niagara River water throughout the summer. It's got that green color to it. And then the fact that we've got deep water very close by. You know, we can go 3 or 4 miles and be into 300 foot of water. So when the winds are blowing, you know, when you get into the summertime, July into August, and the winds are blowing that thermocline up and down consistently, if you do have to get to colder water offshore, it's very easy to get there. Where other ports, trying to get to 500-600 feet of water can be quite the haul. So I think that's why the fishing is so consistent there.
Rick, we got one guy that I think he's really into boats. FLX Adventures says he loves your boat too. He was just talking about Dan's boat, but he loves your boat too. He just said the little one. So you actually got a couple of new boats. You had the Trojan, the big boat, and then you changed that, and you just picked up a multi-purpose boat as well. Tell us a little bit about your Crazy Yankee fleet.
Yeah, so we had the 10 meter that you fished on, and then we weren't looking for a new boat. And I think I was on lunch one day at work, and this Tiara popped up, and I knew that the next boat was probably going to be a Tiara if I found the right cabin layout and the right engine package. So this popped up, and next thing I know, I'm driving to Ohio to take a look at it, and everything kind of worked out. Nothing was wrong with the Trojan, and the kid that bought it, or the guy that bought it, absolutely loves it. Him and his parents are running charters at the yoke with it. It's still running strong. And from time to time, I do miss it. I did spend 13 seasons with that boat. I knew it very well. But the Tiara is a great boat. Man, it gets up and goes. Those 5.0, I didn't think anything could drink gas as well as a 454, but a 502 says, hold my beer, watch this, because I've got flow meters on that boat that I put in, and you know, it's hard to get 0.6. Most of the time, I'm running combined 0.45 to 0.5 miles per gallon. So it likes its gas, but it's a great platform. The cabin's awesome, and that was a big thing for me because I've got a 5-year-old. He'll be 6 later on this year, and he really enjoys sleeping on the boat. So I look forward to doing more of that in the next few years, hanging out with him and spending the weekends on the boat with the family. So that was a huge thing for me. But the room in the back of that 36 is absolutely amazing. You know, with the fantastic fishing we had this year, getting 4 guys shoulder to shoulder fighting fish, there's still room for my brother and I to slide in there in between the guys and net fish. So the boat offers us a lot of room. It gets up and goes, and it's got a great cabin layout. So we're very happy with that Sierra. And then right behind me over here, I guess, is the Phantom. It's not my Phantom, but it's very similar to the one I've just purchased, and that is the Smoker Craft product. I had a Lund Baron for many years, and it did me very well. But the winters we were having were kind of mild, and my snowmobile wasn't getting much use. So I said, I'm going to sell the snowmobile and buy a boat that I don't feel bad running if it's snowing or raining out, because there's no carpet in it. So sold the snowmobile, bought this boat behind me, and now I'm responsible for the snow and the ice and the cold that's been around for the last month. So I apologize to everybody about that.
Yeah,
but this boat is, what's that?
I could use a little less ice where I've been fishing the last few weeks.
I seen you cracking some ice in the river. I haven't gathered the kahunas to try that with this boat yet. Although I did have to break some up at the ramp one day. But yeah, no, it's been cold, and I feel partially responsible for it. But this boat's great. Okay. It's getting me out here, and I love my winter fishing. The fishing's fantastic, and I have the lake to myself, so I don't have to worry about running into people. And like I said, the fishing is fantastic.
Rick, let's talk about that for a little bit. You mentioned your son, 5 going on 6. I've seen a bunch of videos of him ripping around on his 4-wheeler right now. But you know, your dad got you started in this. You still fish with your brother. You got your son coming up. Just talk a little bit about how you've incorporated and just been around family your whole time going through your fishing adventures.
Yeah, family is very important to me. I can explain it. Like, so I have dinner with my in-laws and my parents 4 to 5 times a week. So I like that family atmosphere, and I want my son to be around that. My son absolutely loves the boat. We'll sit in the boat in the garage and hang out. He'll play with different things. It's awesome. But I also don't want to overburden him with my passion. So I try to give it to him a little spurts, so that so I guess my hope is that, he loves it as much as I do. But like I said, I don't want to burn him out on it. So I get him out every so often, and he caught his first bass all by himself this summer, which was like probably one of the top moments of my life, was watching him catch that bass. He thought he had weeds, and I was like, buddy, weeds don't swim sideways. So, he loves that. He loves sleeping on the boat. So I'm enjoying watching him grow up, and some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth is just, it's hilarious. And the way these kids' minds think at that age, it's pretty impressive. But I'm having a lot of fun with them. Took him ice fishing for the first time, and I didn't know what to expect. And when I go fishing, it's like full throttle. If things aren't perfect, I'm getting angry. I know how I want to do it and how it's supposed to be done. But when I take him, I've got to step back and realize it's more about the experience, not about success, of the success of catching fish and being productive, but just showing him a good time. So when we were younger, we didn't have, ice huts and all this fancy ice fishing equipment. We had a homemade sled. My father had an auger that basically had a shovel on it that went in a circle. So we got these little ice balls out of drilling holes in the wall. There are holes in the ice. So we would play bocce on the ice with that stuff. We'd bring a football. So it was about the experience when we went ice fishing. And I tried to make sure that I did something very similar. And it was great that a friend of mine, Tim Scripp, was out there. His son was out there. Once they kind of met, then it just made the experience easier for me, because the kids were playing, they're sliding on the ice. We'd run after flags. It was really cool. So it's been fun getting him involved in the outdoors, and he really loves it. He loves his four-wheeler. So I'm looking forward to where that's going to lead. But he loves the boats as well. So I guess what I try to do is I try to just sprinkle in a little bit here, a little bit there. I coached soccer with him last winter for a few weeks. Just try to show him a little bit of everything. And I guess if something sticks or whatever sticks to him, he takes it and is passionate about it, like I am about the outdoors and fishing.
Yeah, that's great information for anyone who wants to get their kids involved in fishing and the outdoors. Pretty much everything that Rick just said in the last 3 or 4 minutes, I think, is going to be your playbook for doing that. Matthew Cam chimes in. He's got an attaboy for you. Says, Captain Rick saved a trip for me last year after I donated my probe to the lake. He got me a new probe the same day and was very knowledgeable on the Fishhawk product. So that's a great story, Rick. Appreciate you doing that. And it's no surprise that you did that based on what I know about you. And then just had Mike Ziem stop in, just said, great show. Captain Matt, wealth of knowledge. Sounds like he's gone fishing with you before. So
Yeah, Mike Ziem, he's a shoreline angler on the Niagara River. And, I'll see him when I'm in the boat and float by. We'll wave and how you doing? And
yeah.
he can help us with what's going on from the shore. A lot of places we can't fish. And, salmon season last year was really tough on the river, but Mike was fishing different areas. He's like, well, there's still some salmon in the river. We're catching them. It's just where you guys can't get them in the boat. So it was good to know that, that there was fish that we weren't seeing. But he's a good guy, and he's a helpful guy as well.
Yeah. Rick, tell me about, you've been to several boat shows, I think, already before. I think you were at one a week or two ago. Tell me about how boat sales are going right now, and kind of what the world's doing as far as buying boats these days.
Yeah, this is my third boat show in about 4 weeks, and I can tell you I'm kind of over it. But I'd much rather be where you guys are. The traffic's been decent. I think all dealers have no shortage of inventory, and there's a lot of great deals out there. I think with the inventory, you're getting manufacturers offering rebates and dealers slashing margins. So I think it's a great time for somebody who's in the market for a new boat to come out to one of these boat shows and figure out what they like, what they don't like. There's some very good deals to be had. I think the biggest holdup right now is finance rates, and they're starting to come down a little bit compared to where they were in the last year or two. So we're seeing them slowly come down, and so that's kind of bringing some people around. But they go down a little further, I think it'll be back on as far as buying goes. Market.
Rick, if somebody's thinking about buying a boat, let's say more of a, something in the 20-foot range, something like your smoker craft, what should they really look for when they're looking for a boat to troll on the Great Lakes with, but not, we're not talking Tierra type of stuff. We're talking about like your smoker craft. What are some features and what are some things that people should really be keying in on when they're looking at a boat?
There's a lot of great stuff out there. One of the things, if you are in the market for a brand new boat, is I would go with a reputable company. There's a lot of companies that will come and go over the years, but the Smoker family is still a family-owned company. They've got an amazing line of products. When you get into that top line, that top brand, you're going to get a good build quality. You're going to get a company that stands behind their product. For me, I guess when it comes down to what kind of boat somebody wants, it really comes down to how they fish. And what I've found selling fish boats is everybody fishes differently, even if they fish for the same exact fish you do. So rather than me telling them how their boat needs to be or what they need in their boat, I try to listen to what they want or how they're going to use the boat. That's really the biggest thing. So all these boats have these little nuances that are different. And that's why these boat shows are a great place to come and look at these boats, because you can see, you can compare models side by side, you can compare brands side by side, and really figure out what fits your style of fishing.
Tell me a little bit. One of the things I'm seeing a lot, Rick, are the consoles getting pushed up further and further up to the front of the boat. What are the advantages to doing that, and are there any disadvantages to doing that?
Yeah, you're seeing that, and it's great because it gives you a lot more room in the back of the boat if you are into the trolling aspect of fishing. But if you're a caster, and with the new live sonar that's out there, I don't know if you're going to continue to see that, because you're going to get a lot of guys that are going to sit there on their trolling motor with a dedicated pole for their live imaging, and they're going to be able to catch a lot of the fish that we catch trolling that were never able to be targeted in the past. You got guys out there in open water, out to 100 foot of water, casting and being successful on salmon. Same thing with lake trout in the Great Lakes and brown trout. And I don't know how this is going to play out in the future. This could get this could get interesting, because you've got these guys out there with these big boats with these gigantic trolling spreads, especially out here when they're running 5 and 6 rods on a planer board on each side, and then you've got these smaller boat guys with their live sonar that are basically out there hopping around, and they're actually hunting and sniping single fish, and they're getting good enough where they can point out or pick out the bigger fish in that school or in that water. So you're going to have these guys out there spot locked in the middle of the lake with these big boats trolling through. So it's going to get interesting in the future. But yeah, for my style of fishing, most of my customers love to troll, or they don't know how to fish. They come out with us and we're trolling. It's easy to get them hooked up on fish with a bunch of rods in water. So I prefer the console a little forward, so I have more trolling room. And that's kind of why you're seeing a lot of guys go to that in the Great Lakes. I know Lake Erie's been real popular with some of the heavy gauge aluminum stuff. It's starting to catch on here in Lake Ontario, and that's why we brought the Smokercraft Phantom line in up, because it has that same build. It used to be a West Coast style company with that heavy gauge aluminum welded boat. They brought it in-house in Indiana, and now because we don't have to pay the shipping from Indiana to Washington, we can kind of cut down on the freight and get these boats out to the public a little bit cheaper than if it would have stayed over on the West Coast. But yeah, if you're looking for a trolling boat, there's a lot of options in the new heavy gauge aluminum welded stuff.
Rick, what should people look at if, let's say I want to buy a smoker craft like what you have, and I'm going to go fishing on Lake Ontario? And I think the question that a lot of people have, and you probably get this all the time, is how big a motor should I put on the back of this thing? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's certain models that you can get away with running a little bit less than max horsepower on. Our 21-foot Mariners, which are it's a brand new model that took over for the 21 Fishmaster. It's got the Generation 2 hull underneath it. It maxes out at a 250, but with a 200 horsepower engine, 2 people with a bimini up and some gear, you can get 50 miles an hour out of that boat. A 250 is going to push that into the mid 50s. So there's some boats where you can get away with not maxing out the horsepower, which will save you some money when you go to buy a boat. On my Phantom, I maxed out the horsepower. That maxed out at 175. So that you find on some of these heavy gauge aluminum boats, you don't have the flotation you would in the Mariner or the Fishmaster, some of these other light gauge aluminum boats. So you can't get as big a horsepower on that boat. But with the 175 and that Phantom, that boat with myself, gear, and a load of gas, I can do mid 40s very easily. And I'm still working on propping on that boat, so I think I can do a little better. But you don't always have to go maximum horsepower. On your 18-foot boats, a 150 is a great option. When you get into the 19 and 20-foot boats, 175 to 200 will push it quite well. So you don't always have to. I know the big craze nowadays in the glass market is, how can we get the biggest motor on the back of this boat? They're getting 350 and 400 horsepower outboards in the back of these boats. And I've talked to a few people, and you're starting to get issues on the transom because you're hanging all this weight on the back of a 21 or a 22-foot boat. So, those 150 to 200 horsepower engines have been around forever. They've been on these boats forever. They're great motor options and great horsepower options.
Rick, big thanks for hanging out with us here today. I know you got other things to do. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about today that we didn't ask you about?
No, I just want to thank you guys for having me on. I definitely miss being there. Hopefully they'll change the dates in the upcoming years where I can make it back to that show, because that's really my cup of tea, is hanging out with other fishermen. So look forward to seeing Matt this spring here in a few months when I get up to the bar. And thanks for all you guys do, and I hope you guys are having a good time there. Don't drink too much.
We're gonna have a nice dinner tonight.
You gotta watch out. There's a superhero there that might get you into some trouble, so you got to be careful.
Yeah, yep. That can happen. That can happen. Yeah. He's Captain Rick Hajecki from Crenzer Marine and from Crazy Yankee Sportfishing. Thanks so much for joining us, Rick.
See you in the spring.
See you guys.
All right. That was Rick Hajecki, and we got another guest stopping by right now. Come on in, Nick. Sit right here in the middle. Put this mic on you so everybody can hear you.
There we go.
All right, he's Nick Malpagano, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, Nick, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you fish, where you fish, what your charter is.
Well, I'm owner and operator of Nautical Nick's Guide Services on the Salmon River. I also run midway charters on the lake from the Eastern Basin. I grew up fishing Lake Ontario and its tributaries for salmon and steelhead, brown trout.
Yeah. So are you at a Pulaski?
Yes. Yeah. Typically from the eastern end. Yeah.
Right out of the same arena as Mr. Prisco?
Yes. Or I'm the big Salmon River. He's out of the little salmon.
Okay. All right. Do you ever launch any bottle rockets or anything like that at him?
I've thought about it. No. No, I like Casey. Casey's a good guy.
All right. For folks who don't know that area, Can you just tell us a little bit about the fishing in that area on Lake Ontario?
Well, it tends to be the more challenging end of the lake. The dominant west wind usually beats us up pretty good. But at the end of the season, that's where everybody wants to be. The salmon are trying to come up the Salmon River, and that's where they pile up, and that's where we are.
Yeah. So how far do you usually run on a given day and you're going out? I mean, you've got a lot of different places you could go there. Tell me a little bit about kind of what that day might look
An
like.
average run, I would say we're doing 6-8 miles. Sometimes we get a hard wind, we got to go way up north or way west just to find temperature, or sometimes we get those hard winds that blows the fish up. So we got to go chase them down.
What are you running for a boat?
30-foot Penyan.
Okay.
Yep.
Tell me about kind of what is your summer program? If you're going to go target kings, what does that look like?
A typical, earlier in the spring, a lot of spoons.
Okay.
Good friend of mine quoted speed kills.
Yeah.
We run an all spoon program. We'll do 3 to 3-4 at the ball.
So you're covering
just
some
hum
water.
along, yep.
Yeah.
A lot of guys think you got to run 2.5, 2.6, 2.8, but when you run them hot, that gives a lot of action to your spread, and it gets the attention of the lazy fish.
Yep.
A lot of times the lazy fish are the big fish, and they're looking for something different.
Yep.
When you're running that fast, I mean, are you running like bigger spoons then when you're running that fast?
Not necessarily. I mean, say stinger spoons, we're not running scorpions, but the stingray, and sometimes we run mags, just depends on what kind of bait's around. Typically the mid-size, the stinger.
Okay. And how are you deploying your lines? What are you running as far as you're running riggers or you're running long lines? What is a spread look
Usually
like?
when I'm running hot like that, I run my 3 riggers and 2 divers. Very rarely will I put a board out. When you're humming along like that, you don't want to drag all that extra stuff around.
Yeah. And so you said you like what are your favorite colors, patterns?
One of my favorite spoons on Lake Ontario is the Gator.
The Gator?
Yep.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Black back, green just underneath of it. It's your pretty much the closest thing to an LY you can get. So.
All right. We got Captain Nick Malpagano. We got Captain Matt Yablonsky here with us today. If you have any questions for these gentlemen, go ahead and put them in the comments. We'll get them to them. Captain Matt's a West End guy. Captain Nick's an East End guy. So we've got Lake Ontario covered here for the next about 15 minutes. Tell me about how you got started in fishing.
My father's a guide and captain since I was 3 years old. So I was usually the test dummy.
Yeah.
So that's how I started. I fished the Salmon River in February with hip waders, and 8 years old, here I am out casting for steelhead. And he'd take me out in the lake, and of course it was always the roughest days, but that's when we went.
Well, you needed an extra helper.
That's it. Yeah. Barely see over the gunnel, but I was the extra hand.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. You hear all these jokes about, when you got yelled at by your dad for not holding the flashlight right.
Yeah.
What was that like for you as a youngster growing up and having your dad be the guy that really kind of leads the way for you?
Well, I got lucky as far as that goes. He wasn't the yeller. He was pretty patient, and that's something I carried on to. I'm very patient with, my clients, my family, so on and so forth. So.
Yeah. So you're saying it's a casual day. If someone were to book a charter with you, we're gonna go out and it's gonna be kind of more of a chill atmosphere.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I fill people out, but we get some of the captains that we call them yellers.
Yeah.
They'll bark at their clients and stuff like that. I'm real laid back.
Yeah.
I like to joke around, have a little fun, but for the most part, laid back.
They're there to have fun.
Exactly.
They're one day, maybe a year, they get to relax, blow some steam. They don't want to get yelled at.
Exactly.
Right.
But sometimes you have to I have to talk over their thoughts. They're doing something. I'm like, stop.
Okay.
Stop.
Right.
And they're like, oh, they're just so engrossed in catching that fish. But you got to calm down and just enjoy the fight.
Exactly.
Don't just, So yeah, sometimes you just got to let them know that,
I tell them that's not a bass on the end of that. You're not gonna just crank it in and be done with it. It's a
Yeah.
give and take relationship.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, both of you guys. When you've got clients on the boat that maybe are inexperienced in their rods, how do you coach them to help maximize their success? I mean, it's really, you get somebody on the boat and they're having a hard time landing their fish. It's really frustrating for them, and it's not something that you want as a charter captain. You want them to have success so that they go and tell all their friends, you got to go fishing with these guys. So
Yeah, exactly.
how do you coach your clients to do that?
Well, it's kind of difficult, but if you get 4 guys in a boat, three of them might have fished with you a lot, and they got one new guy.
Mm-hmm.
So usually one of the older guys will go first. And we'll watch him as he lifts up and reels down, so they can see how it goes. When they get there, they have a little better idea. But a lot of times, I'm coaching and the 3 guys are coaching. Now they got 4 people telling this guy what to do, and I got to calm my customers down. Look, let me stand next to him and just help him out. You just do a one-on-one. If you lose it, you lose it. If you get it, you get it. But you just gotta help. They don't know how to do it, and you just gotta help them out.
Yep.
One-on-one.
Yeah, sometimes that extra help from, I call them the peanut gallery, the extra guys on the boat, they're all trying to, no, you guys, shh, I got this.
Yeah.
Same thing, the pump and reel, relax, this ain't a sprint, it's a marathon.
No.
You're gonna want to pace yourself and do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Feel the fish.
Yes.
Feel the fish fighting. When it's taking line, let him take it. When he's done taking it, take it back. It's just getting that right rhythm. And like you said, if you got 3 or 4 guys behind you, one guy's saying pump, one guy's saying reel, one guy says drop.
Yes, exactly.
Wait a minute, you're just confusing the poor guy.
I think it was Chubbs from Happy Gilmore that said, "Feel the flow."
There you go.
Yeah.
That's it.
Feel the flow. Tell me a little bit about some of your clientele. Who do you typically bring out? Do you have families? Do you have bachelor parties? Who do you typically work
I
with?
have all walks of life.
Mhm.
Anything from that one guy where all his buddies bailed on him, and he's the only one that shows up, to families.
Mhm.
I actually had some guys from South America. Is probably the farthest I've had clients from,
Well,
and they just happened to be they were visiting family and happened to come across us, so we took them fishing.
mhm.
I've had people that speak 0 English, and it is what it is, and we make the best of it. A lot of fake sign language I have to do, but
Yeah.
we made it work. So.
All right. What's your favorite part of doing what you do?
As much as I enjoy fishing myself, I enjoy somebody catching a fish.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm there for. As long as my clients are happy and they're catching fish, I am all about it.
Matt, what's your favorite part of being a charter captain?
Same thing. Is watching other people enjoy what I enjoy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure Nick gets the same question. Do you fun fish? Do you fish on your own? I'm like, no. If I'm fishing 7 days a week and I have a day off, I have other things I need to do.
Right.
I enjoy watching you catch the fish. I'm putting the lures down. I've got the speed. I've got the location. That's me fishing.
Mhm.
Is putting you on top of the
Yes.
fish.
Yep.
So I just when they're holding that fish up and smiling ear to ear, I get the same gratification they get.
Yep.
So
That's what it's all about.
it's helping people do what we do.
Mhm.
We have the boats, the equipment, the time, the knowledge, and it might be there one time a year. So just watching people enjoy catching fish.
What's it like for you when you're getting doubles and triples on the back of the boat?
Organized chaos.
Yeah. How do you sort those situations out?
You got to keep a level head about it and just do what you got to do. I actually had a trip just this last season. I had 3 guys. My mate didn't show up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you know what? It's just the 3 of you. We're going to go. I ran an all spoon program, like I said earlier, flying along. We hit one, guy fights it, get that one in. We hit another one, guy fights it, we get that one in. Throwing along, rod goes off, I hand it off. Another rod goes off, I hand it off. Another rod goes off, I hand that one off. I go, cool, we're tripled. Only got 3 guys in the back of the boat. Another rod goes, I ran 5 rods.
Right.
Another rod goes off, so now I'm fighting a fish. Like, okay, we're having, now I'm looking over my shoulder watching. The last rod goes off. So now I'm fighting 2 fish
Yep.
behind everybody while trying to give instructions on, oh, you need to go over you need to go under him.
That sounds like a good time. How'd you do?
We got 3.
Got 3.
The one guy dropped 2 on me, and I just kept feeding him the rods I was.
All right. Yeah, that's what you need.
Yeah.
No time have you ever been more happy to see a client drop a fish. Here, take this one. Yep.
And then
Matt?
the aftermath is ridiculous. Fish on the floor, rods all over everything.
Yeah, everything was cleared. I had to reset everything, and
I'd much rather catch them one at a time.
Yeah. So you said you normally have a mate. Is it a mate that you work with all the time, or do you have
yes,
a group of them?
He's the one guy I primarily work with. Now and again, the way I have it, I work for Midway Charters out in the lake. Captain Jim is the one that owns the boat. His knees are starting to bother him from rocking and rolling the waves, so I'm kind of taking over the reins. So me and my mate Johnny run the show. But when you get the 7 days a week doubles, you get burnt out. So now and again, Jim will give me a day off, or I'll give Johnny a day off. We'll rotate out a little bit just so we have some time off. And then once in a blue moon, we'll hire somebody to come in and fill for a day. But for the most part, it's me and Johnny.
Yeah. How do you end up with Johnny? I mean, I think these first mate relationships are a lot like husband-wife relationships. I'm always intrigued by these things.
Oh yeah, well we poke fun and bust balls, and but I've known Johnny and his family for years, and we just ended up falling together on Midway, and so now we're married.
There you go.
Tell us about a time where you and Johnny maybe didn't see eye to eye. Do you guys normally set gear together, or does he set his and you set yours, or how do you guys work that?
I manage the pointy end, he manages the square end.
All right, gotcha. So he sets the lines for you.
Yeah, he'll I trust him very well. He trusts me very well. We fish very similar too, so that helps out.
Yeah.
And if something isn't working, then we'll start bouncing ideas off of each other. But for the most part, we get along great.
So I just love hearing about those kind of dynamics. And Matt, you're a solo guy, so you don't have those dynamics. You got the square end and the pointy end.
Yeah. Yep. I don't run with a mate. Every now and then I'll take somebody with me. If I've got a 6-man crew and it's going to be a little wavy and I know I need extra pair of hands, I'll grab another captain or someone that's not out. But yeah, I like to do it by myself. And as I get older, I think maybe it's time for a mate. But I just enjoy setting lines. I can't sit at the steering wheel the whole day. I just can't do it. I need to be setting lines and being active and working with it. So I incorporate my customers in. I let them set rods. I have them help me drive the boat. And I started out in a small aluminum boat. So my customers were helping me drive and set lines and maybe net a fish. And a lot of them just carried over in the big boat. So they enjoy joining in. So I let them help me out. So it works out.
Very cool. Tell me about kind of your favorite time to be out on the water, Nick.
My favorite time when the fish are biting. No, I don't like those super flat calm days. I definitely don't like those really really big days either. A nice 2-3 foot chop if I'm happy with. Some overcast. Definitely not a bright sunshiny day. Other than that, as long as the fish are moving, clients are happy, I'm happy to be out there.
What are the returns like there? Obviously, you've got the Salmon River there. Everybody knows what that is. Yep. So what is it like fishing there late in the season?
As far as out front?
Yeah.
We call it the combat zone towards the end of the season there. Here we are, there's 50 of us boats all trying to fish, a 4 foot or a 4 football field size spot. And sometimes there's horns honking and middle fingers flying and 4-letter words.
I can't imagine that.
Sounds like the Niagara Bar in the springtime.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about fishing like that, as a captain, do you want to jump into that pile, or do you go, hey, we're gonna run out here a little bit and get away from this?
depends on how it's set up. You know, if that's where they are, we're in there. You know, usually that's short-lived though. You know, first thing in the morning, everybody tries to get a few laps in there, and then you know, you're in 8, 10, 15 foot of water and a boat going over, blah 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 blah. Well, now you got 50 boats going over them. Shuts it down pretty quick usually.
Yeah.
So then we go offshore, just a little bit outside, and try to spread out.
Sure. Nick, anything else before we let you go?
No, I think we're good here.
All right. Appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir.
If anybody wants to hook up with a charter with you, how do they get a hold of you?
You can look me up at midwaycharters.com or on Facebook, Nautical Nick's Guide Services.
Awesome. Appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
Thank
We'll pull that off you, and have a great rest of your show.
Folks.
See ya.
All right. We got one more guest here before we wrap up. Oh, we got a good question here we have to get to before we get to Mark.
Ooh, Mark's smiling away. He's got something up his sleeve, I think.
Mark McCune from Garmin. We're going to talk a little forward-facing sonar in just a second, but I'd like Matt to answer this question.
All right.
Luke's is a question for both captains. Nick just left, but being an avid fisherman looking into starting to charter, what suggestions do you have to get started?
Well, I mean, you know, if you already fish the Great Lakes, you probably have an idea what to do. But if you want to become a charter captain, one of the best ways to learn how to be a charter captain is to be a first mate. You know, join on with somebody that's been doing it for 10 or 15 years. It's got all the bugs worked out. It's going to teach you the right way to do it. I mated for a couple captains when I first got started. I mated for Kurt. I mated for Dan Dietzen. I mated for another guy, Captain Dick. And I learned a little bit from each one of those guys that I took with me to make my own.
Yeah.
So the best way to do it is to find a guy that you can work with, hop on his boat, and say, look, you know, I want to learn this. I may be a captain someday. Maybe even just donate your time. Work for him for free for a little bit. Hey, if you need some help on a Saturday, I'll jump in, you know, and then more than likely that guy's going to pay you. But being a captain and being a mate for a good captain is probably the best way to shorten the curve.
Yeah, learn the ropes.
Yeah.
Mark, how you
Yes,
doing today?
Very good. It's great being back here in Niagara Falls. The fishing show's looking really good.
Yep.
Today's weather looks great, so we're getting a nice crowd today, so that's a good thing.
Yeah,
it's traffic. A lot of traffic today.
very
coming
nice.
through.
A lot more buzz on the show than we had yesterday. It was a Thursday, and it was a
Easily.
little slow yesterday. It was a good day to go walk around and talk to people in the booth yesterday. That was the nice thing about it.
We have a lot of serious customers that came yesterday because, like you said, they had more time. They could spend time with them and either rigging these expensive boats and putting multiple units and take the time to make sure they get the right equipment they need and take some time to figure it all out.
Yeah.
Especially when they start talking transducers and there's so many options.
Right.
So many.
Well, let's talk about that. And if you got a question about Garmin, you got a question about live scope, Panoptics, what have you, this is the guy right here, and we're going to have him here the next about 15, 20 minutes. And don't forget, we'll be naming a viewer of the show, and that person will get the Fishhawk Electronics swag package. We got a couple guys on the show watching right now that have already got one, so they're going to be not eligible for today's prize. So just keep on chirping on there, and we'll name a winner here in a little bit. But Mark, what's going on with Garmin right now? What do you got new at the show?
We really don't have anything new here today. It's pretty much the same products we had for last year. I think we're going to announce a few new products at the Bassmaster Classic Expo this year in Texas. What they are, I haven't been told yet because they don't want us talking about them. And you know how salesmen are; it's pretty hard to keep a secret.
Right. Yep.
But usually when they announce something new, it's something really good.
Yep.
But I really wanted to talk a little bit today about forward-facing sonar, live scope, as what Garmin calls it. You know, we were the originator of Panoptic when it first came out, and we just kept developing it. And it's a great tool. It really is. It works extremely well, but it will not catch fish.
Right.
And it shows you fish. And a lot of days it can show you how bad of a fisherman you really are. I mean, you can see them, you can watch them chasing your bait, but they won't hit. But I've been hearing a lot of negative things lately, especially some podcasts where they're just bad mouthing live scope. It's not fair. It's going to ruin the fisheries. It's not going to ruin the fisheries. Like I say, it's just another tool. You know, I've been lucky that I've had my career in marine electronics for 42 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I'm not a spring chicken, but I've had the opportunity to watch these products evolve over the years. I mean, when I first started, we had paper graphs and flashers. There was no GPS. There
No.
was no electronic charting. There was no liquid crystal graphs. There was no color graphs.
Mm-hmm.
And everything's evolved. We went from, you know, paper graphs to liquid crystals, and the first liquid crystals had little tiny screens. Well, now we've got, you know, up to 24-inch screens
with big
full-
squares on
Oh
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
full color, super high resolution. So it's just been an evolution of these tools for fishing and finding more fish. And another big advantage was GPS. When GPS first came out, it's like, this is unbelievable. Now you could, you know, you could follow your plot trails, you could store your waypoints, get back to the dock, get back to areas when it was inclement weather. It's just another great tool for catching more fish.
Right.
And now, you know, we have Live Scope as just another one of these tools through technology to help you find fish, but it's not going to make you catch them. And it's horrible to listen to all the bad mouthing about forward facing sonar today. And it's usually from people that don't know how to use it.
Or that don't have it.
Or don't have it.
Yeah.
And I heard a few weeks ago, he was calling these young bass anglers idiots for using it. You know, these kids, they're going to ruin the fishery. They catch all these fish. But, you know, another thing these young anglers have, and the serious bass fishermen, is the ability to go online and research. I mean, study these fish, study these lakes before they even get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's just more tools that they have available to them to be able to catch more fish. And the older guys aren't doing that.
No.
They're not taking the time to research it, go online and YouTube videos, learning before they even get there. So to say live scope's a bad thing, it's not a bad thing. It's just another tool for fishermen to help find more fish and catch more fish, but it's not going to ruin the fishery because
No.
it won't make them bite.
Yeah.
It really won't.
It will not.
And it's amazing. We've had it now for 6 years.
Right.
And, you know, to hear these people that, like you said, that don't like it is because they don't have it or they don't want to take the time to learn how to use it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And one thing I can tell fishermen out there that really want to learn to use their electronics, leave all your rods and reels at home and go out on that boat and spend hours just using the electronics till you learn how they work.
Right.
I mean, so many times you get in a boat, you have brand new electronics on there, you turn it on, you leave the dock, first thing you do is stop at your favorite spot and you start fishing. And you look down a little bit and you keep fishing, but they're not taking the time to really learn what these electronics can do and what they can't do.
Right.
So
Exactly.
you need to spend the time to do it, and that's what a lot of these young anglers have done.
Yeah.
They're smart, they learned how to use them, and they're really good at it.
Right. I'm glad you said that because I've never really heard that before, and I preach that because I've been in the business a long time, and I take pictures of my fish finder and I post them in with my post. Like, here's my 3 downrigger lines. This is a school of bait, and these are my fish. And I get comments on my post. Well, how does your fish finder show all that? I said, because I push the right buttons to
Right.
make it do that.
Make it do it.
I don't care what brand it is. If you sit there and you push the buttons, you can make it work.
Exactly.
And you just have to take the time to do it.
Take
you
the
know?
time to learn it.
And I did the same thing. I went out in the boat and started pushing buttons. Well, that didn't work. I'm not going to do that again. Well, that made that
Exactly.
better. So you just got to play with them a little
You
bit.
really do, because it's not just going to jump out at you. You've got to learn how
No.
to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And watching these YouTube videos, I mean, that is a huge advantage for fishermen
It is.
today, because you can take the time and really watch it and see how it's done. Go out on your boat, try to do the same thing, set them up the same way. Makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, I think a lot of it does come down to people that just haven't used it, haven't been around it. You know, like I said earlier, I live in the Minnesota, Wisconsin area, and we've got a bunch of these permanent wheelhouse fishing houses. And if you go out on the forums, you know, they blame everyone who has these houses on decimating the fishery. And it's like, I've interviewed a lot of like really, really high end ice fishing anglers. And when I ask them, like, what's the best way to catch fishing? I've yet to have one say, go out on the lake and sit in one spot and don't move the rest of the day.
Right.
Like, that's not how you catch fish. Those wheelhouses, they're fun to fish out of. They're fun to hang out with your family and have a good time. But if you want to go out and kill a bunch of fish, that's not how you want to do it. It's just not the way to do it.
A lot of times the guy that catches the most fish is the guy that's sitting on a bucket.
Yeah.
He's got 2 rods in a bucket
Yep.
and an auger over his shoulder, right? And he goes home with a full bucket.
Everybody I talk to that's a tournament ice angler that does really well, everything is built on mobility.
Yep.
How fast can I get from spot to spot? And they're moving around. Nobody's sitting in one spot and winning tournaments. I can assure you that. So, but Mark, one of the things I went to ICAST last year, and one of the things that really stood out to me was, you guys have been the name behind live sonar for years, forward facing sonar, but everybody else is jumping in.
Oh, yeah.
And what that's doing is it's pushing the price points down. And it's going to get to the point where, the guy that didn't do it because it cost too much, is starting to get into his budget, just with getting more and more competition involved. You've got Lowrance that's come out with this unit that's really inexpensive. And what I've seen from Garmin is you guys now have started coming out with units that are more affordable for people to get into this.
We're on live.
You're famous, Mark. People are coming up to talk to you. But tell us just about how Garmin is responding to the other competitors jumping into those forward-facing sonar market.
Well, I mean, we really haven't lowered our prices on our live scope LBS 34. We are offering some discounts right now. If you buy a bundle like 106, 126 with live scope, you can save several $100s to help get the price down some. But the sales have been so strong and robust for live scope, you don't discount something if you don't have to.
Right, exactly.
I mean, our competitors.
But you guys have moved that Panoptic system down, though, just to kind of get people in the game. I saw you guys got a Panoptic system now running under $2,000, I think I saw.
The 106 combo is like 2,200.
Okay.
But in order to get it to work, it's not going to be too cheap.
Right.
It's just too much involved to design it and make it work. But I mean, I'm sure eventually, as technology changes, we'll find a way to get the prices down more and more. And hopefully someday everybody will be able to afford it.
Yeah.
But this thing that's people saying it's going to ruin the fishery, that's just not going to happen. And we're not supposed to go out there and kill every fish we catch.
Yep.
I hardly ever kill a fish.
Right.
It's tournament fishermen, you're penalized if your fish comes in dead. So you don't want to kill them. You want to make sure they're still alive.
Yeah.
Like I said, and I can't stress enough, it's just another tool to help you find fish, and it's not going to catch them for you.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
So I was out with Captain Bob Hines on Platte Bay in August. We were jigging cohosts, and that was a completely new experience for me. It was a lot of fun. But he had the live scope down, so we were jigging for a while and doing that, and then he's like, "All right, we got to throw some spoons at him now." And it felt a lot like fishing in Florida, and that he was shooting everything, going, "All right, there's one at 2:00 there. He's 30 feet out, so you're casting to him, and like you say, I'm casting right by him. He's telling me where to put him, but it's still, it's
You can
tough.
see your spoon going by the fish on the way through.
Tough to get him to go.
He's just sitting there with his fins up, going, no,
Yep.
nope, not doing it.
But it's a lot of fun, and it just makes it more enjoyable, I think. And like you said, with these young guys coming up, guys that are my age, guys that are your age, we didn't grow up with that stuff. Where for these young guys, this is all intuitive to them. This is how they've been doing everything in their life since they've been growing up, is using electronics to do what they do. So
they're not afraid of it. They're not intimidated by it. They just know how to use it.
Yep.
And they take the time to really learn how to use it right.
Yep.
And it's a great tool.
Yep.
It really is, but it still won't catch them. I mean, I've had days out there where I see so many fish and you just can't get them to bite.
All right, we got a couple people asking about this, and we've talked about it a little bit with Captain Casey Briscoe, but salmon trolling with live scope.
PS30.
This guy says, let's hear about guys using the LVS 62 for salmon trolling.
Okay, that's using the new XR,
Okay.
extended range version, so you can see out farther.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a live scope. It's just it's bigger because the crystal's in there bigger, so you get more distance, more clarity. The bigger the crystal, and more guys are using it. Big downside on that one, it's $2,900 just for that transducer, that bundle.
Yep.
But the PS30 does a really good job, and Casey uses the PS30 and a lot of the charter captains, and it's $14.99. It's in a square block. It was the original Panoptic, and it does a great job for trolling.
Yep.
Mount it on the transom a lot easier. The shape of it makes it easier to install.
So
we still do a lot of business with that in the Great Lakes.
So for trolling, you're mounting that deucer on the transom, you're shooting it out towards your spread.
Right.
And what it does, it allows you to see those fish coming up into your spread. And one of the things we've talked about, with Casey at length, and I think you can go back to one of our early episodes. It's probably like episode 8 or 9, something like that. We talked to Casey about it. But if you've ever been on his boat, a lot of times you'll see salmon come up and they'll look at one thing and then boom, come down and hit something else. And what he'll tell you is like, I would have taken that rod and changed it had I not seen that. But he's like, there's spoons that you'll run that for some reason it brings fish into the spread, but that's not what they want to bite. So that gives you just gives you, I think, a little bit of better idea of what's going on behind your boat when you're out trolling.
No question.
Yeah. So if somebody wanted to set up with something like that, what do they need to go out and pick up?
Well, the first thing they have to decide is how big a screen they want to purchase and able to display that information coming from your live scope transducer. And we've got units now from 6 inches up to 27 inches that'll all accept live scopes. You got to figure out what size of display you want, and then just either use the XR or the PS30 to set up for your salmon.
Okay. 27 inches sounds pretty awesome.
It's huge. I mean, believe me, that's more for the super yachts and that type.
Right. But
it's
6 inches, I've heard,
for that.
to run live scope, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So what would you do if you were going to set up, say you had a 30 footer and you want to set this all up on your transom? What would you kind of suggest for a screen?
I would suggest a 12-inch.
12, yeah.
Really see that's a good size. It's not going to get in the way of all your lines and riggers and everything, and you'll be able to see it even if you're sitting, back in front of the boat. You'll be able to see up there and see the display on the screen.
So 12-inch is a good size.
Several different models. We have the EchoMap 126 is a 12-inch. We have the 8612. We have the 1243. So there's several different models in 12-inch that are more affordable.
And what are the differences between those models?
Like the Echo Maps will not support video, so you don't have video out. They won't support the radars. They'll support autopilots, but not radar. When you get into GPS maps, and if you want radar, be able to control your radar, you can do that. You have your video in and video out. So there's some more advanced features in the GPS maps versus the Echo Maps. But if you don't care about those advanced features, the value is definitely in the Echo Map 126.
If people have questions and they want to talk, I mean, obviously it's nice to have you here to talk to, and I've talked to you now. I think this is the 3rd year in a row we've had you on the show, but we don't always get to talk to Mark. So where should people go to kind of get some of these answers?
You get a hold of Garmin's product support, 800-800-1020. Those guys are really knowledgeable. They do a great job in answering questions and helping consumers out. A lot of problems with marine electronics isn't the unit is defective, it's operator error. So you can call them
with a lot of everything.
Yeah, believe me, they are well trained, know their products, and they can take care of your problems without a doubt.
Very good. Mark, anything else you want to talk about before we let you go?
No, just thank everybody out there that's using Garmin products. We appreciate your business. Without you guys, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, and if you get around any of these shows, stop in and say hi.
Well, we appreciate you.
No worries. Thank
Mark
you.
McCune,
Enjoy.
good to have you on the show again, and enjoy the rest of the show.
You too.
We'll see you.
Nice meeting, Mark. All right.
All right, it's Mark McCune from Garmin, and that about wraps us up for today. Matt, any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say before we let you go?
I don't know, but I think everybody's looking forward to spring.
Yeah.
A little sunshine, a little warmer weather, and get back on Lake Ontario and do what we do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys here at the show that are wandering around, and they're here because they want to talk to other captains, see the new products, but we're just itching to get back on the big water and get those those big motors fired up and listen to them humming in the harbor. So stay warm and look forward to spring.
Time to get the ice off the roads.
Time to get the
I don't
ice
mind
off.
ice on the lake. I kind of enjoy that, but boy, ice on the roads, ice on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Kind of tired of that.
Yep.
So, hey, let's name our viewer of the segment, and I think we're gonna go with where'd he go? Luke Gehring. Luke's watching on YouTube. Luke, go ahead and drop us. If you can go to Facebook, drop us a direct message on our Facebook account and send us your address, and we will get that package out to you. Fishhawk swag package. We're going to be back on the air at 4 o'clock Eastern. It'll be Captain Craig Sleeman joining us. I know we got Chuck Earls coming on that show. We got a bunch of other great guests coming up at 4 o'clock Eastern. We're going to take a little bit of a break right now. Mr. Matt Yablonsky, you're going to go have a good weekend with some friends.
Yeah.
So enjoy your weekend. Really appreciate you spending some time with us today, and it was fun having you.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I always like talking to you and talking with other captains and other guys and giving us a little bit of information if I can.
Yeah, if anybody wants to book a charter with you, how do they get a hold of you?
I'm on Facebook at WetNet Charters, and I've got a website, getthenetwet.com. You can always call and text me, 716-550-0413. Even if you're on the water and you don't want to book a charter and you want to know a little bit what's going on, I'm on the water almost every day,
Yep.
April through September. So if you're having a little trouble, send me a text and see if I can point you in the right direction. But if you want to go fishing, Facebook, website, or phone.
Awesome. He's Captain Matt Yablonsky. I'm Chris Larson. We're going to see you back here again at 4 o'clock Eastern.